the Zenith. The strongest weapon in Terraria, having some of the highest DPS in the entire game. That damage is actually insane. This weapon is crafted from 10 different swords, which are crafted from more swords, which are crafted from even more swords. Will I be able to use the Zenith to defeat every boss in Terraria Master Mode? And how fast will it take me to defeat them all? Well, there's only one way to find out. Hello everyone, this is Favorites, and welcome back to another video. As you've probably seen by the title, I'll be defeating every single boss in Terraria Master Mode using the one and only Zenith. There are a total of 15 bosses required for the Slayer of Worlds achievement, and in this video I'm going to be defeating all 15 of them. There are 7 bosses in pre-hard mode and 8 in hard mode. Our first boss of the video will be King Slime, followed by the Eye of Cthulhu, the Brain of Cthulhu, the Eater of Worlds, Queen Slime, Skeletron, and the Wall of Flesh. And in hard mode we have the 3 mechanical bosses, those being the Destroyer, the Twins, and Skeletron Prime, Plantera, Duke Fishron, Golem, the Lunatic Cultist, and finally, the Moonlord. I'll be using 2 worlds in this video, obviously a Corruption world and a Crimson world. In the Crimson world, I will defeat the Brain of Cthulhu, and every other boss will be defeated in the Corruption world, which I'm currently in. Just before I start this video, I did also make another video where I defeated every single boss in Terraria using the Zenith in Expert mode. That's a lot of words. So if you do want to check that one out, there'll be a card somewhere showing up now. And also, if you want to see me obtain the Zenith for the very first time, there'll be another card that will show up pretty soon. And also, there'll be a timer at the bottom right corner of the screen about here, because I want to see how fast I can defeat all 15 of these bosses in Terraria Master Mode using the Zenith. I'm sure I'll get some pretty quick times, considering how insane the Zenith is. And also, just for reference, this is the armor and accessories that I'll be using in this video, along with their stats and reforges. But without further ado, let's start the video and take on our first boss, which is King Slime. So now it's time to take on our first boss for the video, which is King Slime. King Slime usually spawns once 150 slimes are killed in the Slime Rain event. However, it can also be summoned by using the Slime Crown, which is what I'm going to use now. So without further ado, let's summon King Slime and see how fast we can defeat him. And just like that, King Slime has been defeated in just under 6 seconds. Now that our first boss has been defeated, it's time to wait until nighttime to take on our second boss, the Eye of Cthulhu. Now that it's nighttime, it's time to take on our second boss for the video, which is the Eye of Cthulhu. The Eye of Cthulhu can summon naturally at nighttime once the player has 200 health, and it can also be summoned by using the suspicious looking eye, which can be found in golden chests in the underground and cavern layers. In this video, I'm going to be using this suspicious looking eye to summon the Eye of Cthulhu. So without further ado, let's summon the Eye of Cthulhu and see how fast we can defeat it. And just like that, the Eye of Cthulhu has been defeated in just under 4 seconds. Which is pretty good. Now that the Eye of Cthulhu has been defeated, it's now time to go over to the Crimson world to take on our next boss, the Brain of Cthulhu. Now we're in the Crimson world to take on our next boss, the Brain of Cthulhu. The Brain of Cthulhu can be summoned by breaking 3 Crimson Hearts in the Underground Crimson. And it can also be summoned by using the Bloody Spine, which I'm going to use now. So without further ado, let's summon the Brain of Cthulhu and see how fast we can defeat it. And just like that, the Brain of Cthulhu has been defeated in just about 7 seconds. Now that the Brain of Cthulhu has been defeated, it's now time to go back to the Corruption world to take on the Brain of Cthulhu's Corruption counterpart, the Eater of Worlds. Now we're back in the Corruption world to take on the Corruption counterpart of the Brain of Cthulhu, which is the Eater of Worlds. The Eater of Worlds can be summoned by breaking 3 Shadow Orbs found in the Underground Corruption, and it can also be summoned by using Worm Food, which I'm going to use now. So without further ado, let's summon the Eater of Worlds and see how fast we can defeat it. And just like that, the Eater of Worlds has been defeated in just under 16.5 seconds. But now with the Eater of Worlds defeated, it's time to go to the Underground Jungle to take on our next boss, Queen Bee. Now we've made it to the Underground Jungle to take on our next boss, Queen Bee. Queen Bee can be summoned using an Abomination, and it can also be summoned by breaking a lava found in hives, like this one over here. In this video, I'm going to be breaking the lava to summon Queen Bee. So, without further ado, let's summon Queen Bee and see how fast we can defeat her. And just like that, Queen Bee has been defeated in 5.5 seconds. Now that Queen Bee has been defeated, it's now time to go to the dungeon to take on our next boss, Skeletron. Now that we made it to the dungeon, and it's nighttime again, it's time to take on our next boss, Skeletron. Skeletron can be summoned by freeing the Old Man's Curse. The Old Man can be found at the entrance to the dungeon. So without further ado, let's free the Old Man's Curse to summon Skeletron and see how fast we can defeat it. And just like that, Skeletron has been defeated in just over a second. So far, our fastest time to defeat a boss. That was insanely quick. I was actually not expecting it to be that quick. Now that Skeletron has been defeated, it's now time to go to the Underworld to take on our final boss for pre-hard mode, which is the Wall of Flesh. Now we've made it to the Underworld, and it's now time to take on our final boss for pre-hard mode, which is the Wall of Flesh. The Wall of Flesh is summoned by throwing the Guide Voodoo Doll into lava in the Underworld. You can actually make a house for the guide in the Underworld, where you can then drop the guide itself into the lava to summon the Wall of Flesh. That's also another way of summoning the Wall of Flesh. But in this video, I'm just going to be throwing the Guide Voodoo Doll into lava. So without further ado, let's summon the Wall of Flesh and see how fast we can defeat it. And just like that, the Wall of Flesh has been defeated in just under 4 seconds, and we have now entered Hard Mode. Now that we've entered Hard Mode, the Ancient Spirits of Light and Dark have been released into our world, and we'll also be introduced to some newer, harder bosses and enemies, which will be a lot more difficult to beat. But for now, it's time to take on our first Hard Mode bosses. The first Hard Mode bosses will be the 3 mechanical bosses, those being the Destroyer, the Twins, and Skeletron Prime. However, we must wait until nighttime to summon them. If you're enjoying this video so far, make sure to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss out on any other videos like this one. But anyways, let's go back to the surface to take on the 3 mechanical bosses. Now that it's nighttime, it's time to take on the 3 mechanical bosses. The first mechanical boss will be the Destroyer. The Destroyer can spawn naturally at nighttime, and it can also be summoned using the mechanical worm, which I'm going to use now. So without further ado, let's summon the Destroyer and see how fast we can defeat it. And just like that, the destroyer has been defeated in under 7 seconds. Honestly, really good for a hard mode boss. The second mechanical boss will be the twins, which consist of Spasmatism and Retinator. The twins can also spawn randomly at nighttime, and can also be summoned using the mechanical eye, which I'm going to use now. So, without further ado, let's summon the twins and see how fast we can defeat them. And just like that, the twins have been defeated in 11 seconds. And finally, the last mechanical boss will be Skeletron Prime. Skeletron Prime can also summon naturally at nighttime, and it can also be summoned using the mechanical skull, which I'm going to use now. So, without further ado, let's summon Skeletron Prime and see how fast we can defeat him. And just like that, Skeletron Prime has been defeated just before day is hit. And now the jungle grows restless, as we've now defeated the 3 mechanical bosses. Now with the 3 mechanical bosses defeated, it's now time to go to the underground jungle to take on our next boss, Plantera. Now we've made it to the underground jungle to take on our next boss, Plantera. Plantera can be summoned by breaking a Plantera bulb, which can be found in random locations in the underground jungle. Unfortunately, Plantera bulbs are quite difficult to find. This Plantera bulb probably took me about 20 minutes, if not more. I explored most of the jungle and I still couldn't find a single one, so I guess that just shows how difficult it is to find Plantera bulbs. But anyways, we found a Plantera bulb, so let's summon Plantera and see how fast we can defeat her. Second phase already. And just like that, Plantera has been defeated in just under 12 seconds. Defeating Plantera allows access to the post-Plantera dungeon. However, I won't be doing that in this video. Plantera also allows access to the Jungle Temple as it drops the temple key. But for now, it's time to go to the ocean to take on our next boss, Fishron. Now that we've made it to the ocean, it's time to take on our next boss, Fishron. Fishron can be summoned by fishing in the ocean using a truffle worm. So without further ado, let's summon Fishron and see how fast we can defeat him. Now in its second phase. And now we're in its third phase. And just like that, Fishron has been defeated in 25 seconds. I'm actually kind of curious. Let's see if we get Fishron wings from this. We actually got Fishron wings from it, let's go! But anyways, now that Fishron has been defeated, it's now time to go back to the underground jungle to take on our next boss, Golem. Now we're back in the underground jungle and it's time to take on our next boss, Golem. Golem can be summoned by using a lizard power cell at a lizard altar in the jungle temple. So without further ado, let's summon Golem and see how fast we can defeat him. And just like that, Golem has been defeated in just under 12 seconds. Now that Golem has been defeated, it's time to go to the dungeon to take on our next boss, the Lunatic Cultist. Now that we've made it to the dungeon, it's time to take on our next boss, the Lunatic Cultist. The Lunatic Cultist can be summoned by defeating all 4 of these Lunatic devotees that spawn at the entrance to the dungeon once Golem is defeated. So, without further ado, let's summon the Lunatic Cultist and see how fast we can defeat him. I'll start the timer once all 4 devotees have been defeated and Lunatic Cultist spawns. And just like that, the Lunatic Cultist has been defeated, and it's now time for the Celestial Pillars. So now, the Lunatic Cultist has been defeated. However, just before we take on our final boss Moonlord, it's time to take on the 4 Celestial Pillars. As you all probably saw, the Stardust Pillar actually spawned right on top of the dungeon entrance. So for convenience, the first pillar that I'll take on will be the Stardust Pillar. And so now it's time for the Stardust Pillar, which happened to spawn right at the dungeon. For me personally, this is one of the easier pillars, I would say. And I think many people would agree as well that the Stardust Pillar is one of the easiest, if not the easiest, pillar to take down. And now the pillar shield has been broken. And now we've defeated our first pillar. We've defeated the Stardust Pillar. The next pillar that I'm going to take on will be the Vortex Pillar. Vortex Pillar time. I hate these Storm Divers so much. I'm just trying not to die at this point. We are absolutely destroying the enemies right now. There's so many of them spawning and we just absolutely demolish them. Alright, the shield is broken and now we've defeated the second pillar. And I died. But anyways, that's 2 pillars down, 2 more to go. The next pillar will be the Nebula Pillar. Now it's time for the Nebula Pillar. The worst thing about this pillar, the Nebula Floaters. The Nebula Floaters are really annoying for me. The predictors are... Oh, I'm gonna die as well. Let's not do that. And so far, not too bad. Yeah, we're honestly doing pretty good right now. As long as I'm literally just swinging the Zenith around and around. At this point, trying to get rid of all of the enemies here. Especially just in normal Terraria runs. The Nebula Floaters are really annoying. But anyways, the shield's been broken. Just like that, the Nebula Pillar has been defeated. We now only have 1 more pillar, which is the Solar Pillar. And then it'll be time to take on our final boss for the video, which is the Moonlord. So now it's time for the last pillar, which is the Solar Pillar. You need to be careful with these Quarterpedes. For me personally, I actually find the Solar Pillar the easiest pillar to defeat. I know, it sounds crazy, but that's what I think. That's what I think personally. I think the Solar Pillar is the easiest pillar to defeat. Probably followed by the Stardust Pillar. As long as we stay on the ground, we should be fine. The Quarterpedes won't attack us, because once we're in the air, the Quarterpedes will just start coming towards you. They just start charging at you. Like, if I do this right now, you can see the Quarterpedes Coming after me. Thankfully that didn't hit me. That was really close. That was insanely close. Gold speed there. I think we can get rid of that. And just like that, the shield's been broken. And now, all the pillars are being defeated. Which means it's now time to take on the Moon Lord. So now that all 4 celestial pillars have been defeated, it's time to take on our final boss for the video, the Moon Lord. The Moon Lord spawns once all 4 celestial pillars have been defeated, and it can also be summoned by using a celestial sigil, which is what I'm going to use now. So, without further ado, let's summon the Moon Lord and see how fast we can defeat him. That's the first eye, and the second eye taken down. And that's now the third eye defeated, and we have the core opened. And just like that, the Moon Lord has been defeated in about 1 minute and 17 seconds. So now with the Moon Lord defeated, that marks the end of this video. I really enjoyed making this video. I think it was really fun and really cool to see just how fast the Zenith can absolutely obliterate every single boss. And I was really surprised by some of the times that I got with some of the bosses. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and also subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any other content like this one. Also feel free to comment on what your thoughts were on this video. But with all of that said, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all in the next video.